All right, believe it or not, we're ready to get started. So we're going to ask you to please take your seats. Please take your seats so that we can get the heart of this event started. And that, of course, includes the candidates. How many of you have attended an Eggs and Issues? The last few times that we held Eggs and Issues, the turnout was not very good. We had the campaign staff for the Democrat Party on one side and the Republicans on the other. And it just didn't seem to foster the kind of communication that certainly the Bremerton Chamber of Commerce wants to foster. We'd like you to be able to interact with the candidates in a way that's personal to you and ask them questions. We do come at this from a business perspective. We are the Bremerton Chamber of Commerce, and we represent nearly 300 businesses in the city of Bremerton and surrounding areas. And we take that responsibility very seriously. And so we come at this from a small business perspective. We make no apology for that. That's really what our mission is to support local businesses. But you might find the questions more relevant to a business owner than to residents. However, those are interspersed with questions from the audience, which you have so kindly been bringing up to us. We're going to pepper this, as I told you earlier. You're all the guinea pigs. This is an experiment, but this is the best crowd we've had at a candidate forum for a while. So thank you for being here. We do have a Zoom audience, and that audience will be submitting questions via chat. Some have already done that. So it'll be fully participatory with our visual audience as well. With that, I would like to introduce John Morrissey with Kitsap Credit Union, Business Development Manager for this entire area. And he is chairman of our board currently. He's facilitated our Eggs and Issues. We were trying to figure out, I think it's been 3 times, maybe even 4. He's really good, so we keep asking him back. Some people call that being voluntold. I think Betty Skinner, that's one of your favorite expressions because it happens to you all the time. So John is the more formal persona here today. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our illustrious leader, John Morrissey.
Thank you, Denise, and I'll echo Denise's comments. Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it. It is, after all, for all of you on why we do this, as well as it's a fact-finding mission for the Chamber of Commerce. As the chair of the board of directors, we find that advocacy is one of our top priorities, and here is one of the ways that we show that here at the Chamber. So without further ado, we'd like to begin our forum, and so we have allotted some time at the beginning here for each candidate to give a 2-minute opening to tell us a little bit about themselves and a little bit about their platform. And then we're going to dig into a question and answer section. Some of the questions were prepared ahead of time. I'm still receiving more as they come in. If you think of some during the forum, if you just bring them up here to this table to Denise or Betty here, we'll be happy to help you. Candidates. Betty Skinner, raise your hand, Betty. Betty's going to be our timer. She's really good at it, but give her a little grace. She's going to have some sheets to show you when you have 30 seconds left, and then when you're to stop.
And then the hook.
Don't make me bring out the hook. We're trying to make this as friendly as possible. With that being said, we want to get down to the issues. So thank you all for being here, and let's get started. We're going to start just in the order right here. And so I'm going to just go straight down the line. I guess the other thing I didn't tell you is we're going to intermix questions to the mayoral candidates and then the city council candidates separately. So while there may be a question or two that will go all the way down the line, we'll go back and forth with that. But for openings, we'll just go straight down the line. Jeff, you ready?
Kick it off.
All right. I believe that microphone's already on.
Not that it's a giant room. Perfect. All right. How's that? Good levels? Perfect. All right. Cool. Well, thank you all so much for being here. A big thanks to the Chamber for hosting this wonderful event. And for those in person and online, this is the type of community event we definitely, need more often. A little bit about myself. I grew up as a big science nerd. I loved learning about things, solving problems, and I went on to get a PhD in astronomy and then worked for a NASA mission called Kepler. And it was a lot of fun to do research and to again, solve those problems. But what I really loved was working with people. So I went and got a certificate in project management from the University of Washington, and I was director of our science office for a number of years. And I coordinated with government, private business, and individuals to lead teams to accomplish big projects. So I have that as my background. As far as the city goes, I've lived here close to 10 years now, actually living and working in this district. I like to say I got to work remotely before it was the new trend these days, but I did some of it at home and a lot of it out of a great local business called Spark Commons right up on 4th Street, a co-working community. So I've been here. I'm here with my husband, Nick, who works in the shipyard, and our son, Max, who's working on crawling and toddling around. For city involvement, I started attending, city council meetings and committee meetings as far back as 2015, especially been attending a lot in the past several years. Back in 2019, I applied for and was appointed to the City Planning Commission. So it has been a thrill to really dive into our local zoning and codes, updating that to foster our community and give input to City Council. A couple of years ago, I started volunteering with the Kitsap Historical Society. I served as president last year, and I'm currently the director of the museum down on 4th Street, running the day-to-day operations, running that business with our employees. And so it's been fantastic for working with the city on that level of a local small business right in this district. So I'm deeply embedded in this community. I really care about its future. I think I have the skills to serve as an effective representative for all 5,500 people in this district. And I think with my background, and I want to foster communication and collaboration, we can accomplish great things for this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff Coughlin. Now for our first mayoral candidate, Bill Broughton.
Thank you. Thank you all and good morning. I was 30 years old when the city interviewed me and hired me to be the first in-house city attorney in Bremerton back in 1982. And it was probably the most fun job I ever had. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I've always been a public policy wonk. And to be the first in-house city attorney in Bremerton in decades and with a new form of government coming in was a great opportunity for me. We accomplished a lot when I was in Bremerton, and I only left because I had 4 children and I needed to make more money than the city was paying at the time. But I promised myself that if I had the opportunity to come back at the end of my career, I would do that. So that's why I'm here. I love this city. I have a lot of ideas for making the city the most livable city again, as it was a while ago now. We've got some great technology downtown brought to you by one of my clients, the Kitsap Public Utility District. That fiber has been underused and underutilized. I want to turn downtown Bremerton into a Chattanooga, Tennessee type technology center. I want Bremerton to be an internet service provider. So we have high-speed publicly owned fiber in the city that we can bring to people that don't have it. It's amazing how many households in Bremerton still do not have any internet. We have kids learning on cell phones. That's just unacceptable. Bremerton for a long time has been rating its utilities to support its other governmental functions. So 30 cents of every dollar you pay for water and sewer is used for other things. That's very unfair to the poorest of our Bremerton citizens, and I will stop that and make it transparent. We'll show the tax on the bill. Finally, our streets and sidewalks are in terrible shape. I'm going to triple the budget for streets and sidewalks and make them safe and walkable. I'm almost out of time. I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Now our second mayoral candidate, Mayor Greg Wheeler.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you to the chamber, Denise and the board for hosting this meeting. It's good to see you all. So it's, I'm a lifelong Bremertonian, raised here and attended public schools, served in the United States Armed Forces, the Navy, came back home and started and finished a career, 34-year career total, Navy, active duty, and shipyard combined. Served on the city council previously. I was a planning commissioner before that, and now I am in my 4th year as mayor. So it has been an honor to serve you. And if I say I at any time, please know I means dedicated city staff, a cooperative council with at least 4 votes, and the community backing to get over 20 initiatives and programs done. And my website will go into great detail what we've got done and what I hope to accomplish in my next term. So it's been quite a challenge working through the pandemic. We didn't take everybody along with us. And I say we as a country didn't take everybody along with us into a successful time today. There was reasons why we had to do what we did. In Bremerton, we had unprecedented economic growth. And I will say unprecedented, all the way from development permitting to actually sales tax that was collected through commerce in our city. My goal will be as your next mayor, and as me continuing my work for you, will be to ensure that the folks that were left behind are also benefiting from our entire economy. There's ways to do it. We'll talk about it during our debate here today. And I look forward to serving you again as your mayor for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler. For our next council member candidate Jim McDonald.
Thank you very much. How's that? You already hear me in the back? Yeah, okay, thank you. So I was born in Bremerton, raised in Bremerton, attended public schools, much like some of us here, but went to Olympic College. Then I transferred over to Seattle and got a business degree from the University of Washington. I've got a long career of public service, from coaching boys basketball teams to serving directors for Conceptual Credit Union. Spent over 10 years with the credit union. I served as treasurer and I served as chairman of the board for the credit union. I was on the city council. I was elected council president. All those are honors from your peers. So I've been well respected with the people I work with. I think I work well with people. For Bremerton, I too want to put more money towards our streets and sidewalks. I think there's ways to do that. With my business degree, my finance, I've looked at the Bremerton budget, and I think we have money to do some of that as well. I also want to increase fiber optic to our neighborhoods. We as taxpayers, property owners, part of our tax dollars go to the Kitsap PUD, and I think we should be seeing a little more benefit from that money that we have. I'd also like to see the city get a little more green. We still have a lot of gas and diesel cars. We don't generate much more energy, and I think we can do a lot to improve that. Most of our stormwater still supports money going into pipes, which goes out to the bay. So I think we can do a lot better in that direction. I look forward to doing that, and I worked 15 years in the shipyard in the environmental office, so I have a really extensive knowledge on environmental rules and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Our next council person candidate is Melissa Watkinson.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Watkinson, and I'm here today because I want to be a good ancestor to future generations. This city, my home, the home of over 40,000 other diverse Bremertonians, roughly 40,000 of whom live and vote within District 3, deserves stronger representation and more qualified leaders who have the experience and commitment to a more equitable and sustainable future. I come from a long line of Indigenous and non-Indigenous Americans. I'm a sixth generation Watkinson to live along the Puget Sound shores and a relocated citizen of the Chickasaw Nation. Before meeting my dad, who raised me, my mom did everything she could to raise me and my twin sister alone, often leaning on friends and neighbors for support. Her new spouse, who I call my dad, is a member of the Upper Skagit tribe and worked for tribal housing departments throughout my childhood before he transitioned to work with code enforcement with the city of Bonney Lake. I learned early on how meaningful and critical the local government is to support meaningful communities. My mom later owned her own small business selling consigned clothing at the Lady Jane Boutique. When my dad took a job in Gallup, we moved from Yakima, and my mom got a job with Bright in the Rain, who had just designed the environmentally responsible coating for waterproof paper, a local company. More recently, my mom started earning retirement just 2 years short of her 50th birthday. And after working with a local construction company for more than a decade and then transitioning to work for a bank. I tell you all of this because I think it's important to know what has influenced our candidates, but also more to illustrate the ways that my commitments to serve communities in Bremerton, my home, is a lifelong one. I like my opponents just as much as the next guy, and there are a lot of you guys here. But I don't trust their ability to create equitable and sustainable policies that represent me and the many neighbors I consider family. My skills and experiences make me uniquely qualified to serve as Bremerton City Council's District 3 representative. Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. And our final council candidate is, let me get this right, Johannes Schonberg.
Fantastic. Well, it's perfect as it gets. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate everybody taking time out of their day. So my name is Johannes Schonberg. I was born in Seattle and raised between Port Richard and down in Belfair. I enlisted in the Navy 2001 as a nuclear machinist mate and wound up commissioning to the Naval Academy. Served 11 years on active duty before coming back to Washington State and joining the reserves. And I worked here locally on several kind of fronts. I was an intern for Congressman Kilmer for a year, really learning about how our federal government works, how acquisition works, understanding how outreach works, how do you engage with citizens, and really understand how to listen, be able to collect, and then bring that back to affect policy, affect budgets. I think those are really important skills that we gained. From there, worked in the startup ecosystem. So really spent a lot of time working to support veterans and transitioning service members and military spouses, creating new businesses, becoming entrepreneurs, getting the networks and training and skills that they need. I spent a lot of time between the Washington, the Governor's Military Transition Council and other leadership positions, really working to drive communities and kind of people to pursue their dreams as small business owners. So economic development is really important to me, the networks and resources and tools to make that happen. Now I also support the Navy, employed by the Navy to help build resilient industrial chain or small business to be able to support defense and the government because we need acquisition. So I think Bremerton can partake in kind of economic development that's happening around the region, around the county. This used to be the town that we drove by to go to Silverdale on the way to school. Now it's the place to live. I've moved here, made it my home. I absolutely love the city. I love the people that are here, and I'm passionate about, I think I have the skills and the networks to really help bring those visions to life here.
Thank you to our candidates. And so now we'll transition to the question and answer section, where you will have 1 minute to answer the question. Again, if you just keep your eye on Betty Skinner right over here, she'll give you that 30-second time mark, and then when you will stop. So we're going to start our first question here with City Council. So we'll actually start, since Jeff got to go first, we'll start with Jim. Jim, the first question is, and you will all get this question, what role do you believe local business plays in a healthy and vibrant community, and what will you do to support them in your district? Again, one more time. What role do you believe local business plays in a healthy and vibrant community, And what will you do to support them in your district?
Well, we need the businesses. We need more businesses. Downtown still, lacks a drugstore, clothing stores, grocery stores. So we can really make improvements in that way. One of the things I would like to see, I'd like to see more entertainment venues. I like to see a permanent stage on the boardwalk. When I was on council before, I promoted and got the legislation passed that increases the B&O tax limit by $20,000 every year. It was like $40,000 or $60,000. This year it's $240,000. And I support that. And in economic times, we should still keep raising that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next is Melissa. Same question.
Great, thank you. So I really have found that local businesses are the center and the bedrock of creating that community vitality that we have. And I think that's particularly true here in Bremerton and it's particularly within District 3. So I really want to be able to find ways to continue to support local businesses and local small businesses who employ a lot of the community members that we have. Keeping local and supporting local businesses helps to keep our money local as well. And so it helps to support our economic well-being and vitality overall. And in talking with a couple of local businesses around here, I learned that there are struggles, especially for businesses that are owned by people of color who don't have as much, who are coming from a little bit of a harder start, or tougher start. They've identified issues such as parking, having to pay or move parking is for regular working hours. So that's something I hope to address, as well as continuing to support local artists and markets.
Thank you, Melissa. Johannes?
Good morning. I think, city business or small business is, it's been mentioned before, is really critical to the community. Above and beyond, I think it's really important small business drive revenue to the city, which then provides services to its constituents, to its residents. And so it's really important to empower our small business to be able to be successful. And beyond that, it's supporting community events. It's often our small and local business that are actually supporting the local community activities and kind of kids events and school events and stuff like that. So they're really core and critical to the fabric of society here within the community. And some of the issues is, doorbelling, talking to small business owners. I mean, parking always the #1 issue. Understand we've got fantastic kind of grant, the joint transportation grant that should hopefully lead to some some solutions for parking, but for employee parking and for visitor parking is a huge issue in downtown. The B&O tax, continuing to expand that cap or the exemption in order to help small businesses be able to survive in downtown Bremerton, and then connecting with resources like the SBDC and the PTAC, making sure in the chamber. So thank you.
Thank you, Johannes. And Jeff.
All right. Fantastic. This on, there we go. Perfect. So yeah, Bremerton, of course, has the shipyard. That's what it's known for. But the other thing we have locally are our small local businesses. That is the unique thing about, especially District 3 here, downtown Manette, downtown over here, upcoming Charleston, hopefully where the Harrison Center is. And so we need to lead into that and embrace it as our city's thing, as these small, cool local businesses. And, I'm involved with one myself, and I'm going around all the businesses and asking them, what can the city do better? As Johannes mentioned, parking is a #1 issue, not only for people being able to come down and shop, but for employees. It's hard when people have to, every 2 hours, come out, do the parking lot shuffle and spend 20 minutes. And that's a huge burden on employers and employees. They need clean streets. We're facing a homelessness crisis in our country and locally in the city. And so we need to provide resources to deal with that. But businesses can't function when there's people sleeping in their doorways, when there's trash on the streets. And finally, I think we need some direct funding for organizations like our chamber. We need to foster a community of collaboration between the businesses to make this a tourism-centric town and to lean into that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question goes to our 2 mayoral candidates. It's along the same lines, but you have a little different set of influence. Many cities have an economic development department that not only oversees, but works to attract economic development. The city of Bremerton currently does not have such a department. What is your perspective on this? As opening comments went first to Bill, we'll start with Greg.
So with economic development, especially if we were to go down that path, I would propose consultation. And so right now, though, I will share with you, I brought in Amazon in my first term. So, and that was a big one. Started a small business assistance program at night and on weekends through the COVID recovery program. Expanded outdoor dining for our businesses and all of our other businesses in the city and throughout different areas. Created a new ordinance, which will become a permanent ordinance once all the COVID protocols are lifted. I've hired and through increased funding, the Small Business Development Center, Jamie Forsyth, Western Washington University, we had unprecedented growth within our city and created thousands of jobs over COVID. How did that happen? Folks quit they quit driving to other locations. They worked from home. They shopped from home. They ate at home. And so what we need to do is we need coaching so we can develop and capitalize on these opportunities of the new wealth that's coming in our city. And I've got to stop this.
Thanks, Greg. Bill?
Well, we had an economic development director and our current mayor eliminated that position. I think we need to have economic development direction in the city because right now economic development really is being run by planners. And, planners are very well-intentioned people, but they don't understand business and development as an economic development director would. Kerry Bozeman, who's endorsed me in my candidacy here, did a great thing when he brought Opus in to help with downtown redevelopment. They're a private economic development firm. And I think it's important that if we want to have economic development, we need to understand what the drivers of economic development need and want. Unfortunately, I've looked at the plan for Harrison when the hospital gets torn down. It's a plan that doesn't make any sense from an economic development perspective. It'll just be another blighted area unless we get development interest, financial interest involved in the process and do something that makes sense for everybody, not just for the planner.
Thank you. Back to a council question. We will start this question with Melissa. Melissa, District 3 represents both downtown and Manette areas of Bremerton. Businesses in both areas are dependent upon visitors, whether local or from out of the area. What do you believe the city council can do to attract more visitors to Bremerton?
Okay, now it's working. Thanks for the question. So we can't forget about our evergreen neighbors and those who I guess identify as like I'm part of Union Hill, right? Unincorporated Union Hill. So we also have some businesses in these areas that that are dependent on or that this city council member represents. For visiting Bremerton, I think that some of the challenges for visitors, again, are going to be parking. So how do we incentivize people to actually carpool to work so that we can limit the number of people which currently is a majority of people who are commuting alone. And we also need to continue to support our small and local businesses in the downtown evergreen and net areas and build either a campaign or public, build more public information that shows the incredible vitality, the incredible arts, restaurants, the diversity of the types of businesses that we have as well.
Thank you. Johannes?
Thank you for the question, and absolutely agree that Bremerton has a lot to offer. The downtown corridor, the parks are an amazing manifestation of people, of residents that have a vision. We're able to work together to get the grants and be able to do that. We want to showcase that and bring the visitors downtown. I think the marketing that has been done in the city by the chamber and others actually has been really fantastic. It looks good. It advertises well. I see it on social media, strong kind of presence. I think reinforcing and working to scale those types of activities is really important. It certainly is a number of eyeballs and getting that information out there. Parking is an issue, a major issue. If we can't figure out how to either provide parking through parking garages or sit down and They did change, I believe, to have 2-hour parking instead of the 10-hour parking. So some of the recommendations from parking study of 2017 were implemented, but even that hasn't been sufficient. So we need to keep addressing that issue with the business owners and make sure that we're finding ways that visitors have a place to visit the park when they get here. So as well as continue to sit down with our neighbors and understand the issues and impacting them, so we can create the best experience possible.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, this I go back to, we need to lean into the city as a place for small business and for tourism. It's been a pleasure to be on the Visit Bremerton Advisory Council that the Chamber hosts, where we're talking about these issues and how we can attract more people here, connect the area. One of the great ideas I think we tossed around locally was a shuttle bus system. Just something simple like an airport shuttle that goes between downtown, Manette, over to Charleston, where visitors can come, and if they don't have parking, they'll get on the shuttle and go visit all these unique areas of our town. So I think direct funding from the city council for the chamber for programs like that would be fantastic. Again, along with increased tourism promotion, getting out there on social media more, some advertisement. Years ago, I did tours in Seattle, and they'd say, "Oh, there's the ferries to go over the Bainbridge." But more and more, I'm hearing people talk about Bremerton. And I think we need to lean into that. As folks in Seattle and other places realize Bremerton is hip, it's cool, it's trending. Let's snag those people, get them over here, and get them walking into our local businesses.
Thank you, Jeff. Jim?
Thank you. I think we really need to work on the entertainment side of it. As mentioned earlier, I'd love to see a permanent stage down on the waterfront instead of the temporary one we have. We could host a lot more concert events. We could have the Parks Department manage it on a sign up. There could be entertainment many nights of the week. We need more covered entertainment areas as well. And I'd like to see the development of an inside one because it does rain like a little bit here sometimes. I think festivals are a big deal. I like the beer festival, the wine festivals, and I think we can keep up doing those kind of things and promote those using some of the lodging tax funds we have to support more tourism. I really agree with the city supporting the Admiral Theater. The city owns the building. When that theater is good entertainment, the town is full, whether it's restaurants in Manette or downtown. And we need to keep that support. Same with the conference center. This conference center brings in a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you. Along those same tourism lines, mayoral candidates, I believe Bill will start with this question. Main Street organizations bring definite benefits to cities around the country. Do you believe Bremerton should have a Main Street organization? Why? And how will you support it?
Well, I think Main Street organizations are great. I mean, Pete Flynn, I think, was the fellow who ran Main Street back in the 1980s. I know I'm dating myself here, but I think it's important to have an advocate for downtown. I mean, we've got we've got homelessness issues downtown. We've got a bunch of empty, tired old buildings downtown. I mean, let's face it, guys, we need a facelift downtown. We need to take some action. It needs to be bold. And I think having a Main Street person would be very helpful. We talk about parking. We were talking about parking back in the 1980s as a problem. I mean, let's face it, you can't get people and businesses down here when there's no place for them to park. So one of the things, again, I want to use technology to put in a bunch more parking garages around the periphery of the downtown core. And there's smart parking garages. You reserve a space with your phone, you pay with your phone, and they pay for themselves. Back in the 1970s, when Bob Stewart built the one parking garage the city owns here, everybody made fun of it. We need about 10 more of those, and we need to revitalize the downtown core. So I think having a Main Street advocate would be very important and very helpful.
Thank you. Greg, same question?
Yes, the short answer is yes, I would support Main Street organization. There's a number of things we can do in partnership. There's a number of revenue sources that are available once this is stood up. Parking, I will share with you that we have had such success for telecommuting in the city of Bremerton. And there's such a benefit for employees and especially people who are responsible for caregivers to work from home, that we will have a surplus of parking, which I already have a survey out to the business employees downtown to be able to work with us to how we might provide those parking spots. It's a benefit to lower income service workers, and it's a benefit to our public, so they can come down and shop instead of trying to find a place to park. So these are the things that a Main Street will help us support and continue to do, and be able to push out surveys, be able to advertise for our city. There's a number of other programs we're working on to revitalize downtown. Quincy Square is in the works, and it kept on going through the pandemic. That'll be a big boost for us.
Thank you, Greg. Next question for our council candidates, and I believe we're going to start with Johannes on this one. And the mayor couldn't have created a better segue. Quincy Square is a proposed redevelopment of 4th Street between Washington and Pacific Avenues in downtown Bremerton. Do you support this project? And if so, why? If not, why?
Thank you for the question. I think the concept of Quincy Square is fantastic. Creating and renovating or refurbishing streets to create that the draw for tourism, for our local residents to be able to enjoy the Roxy Theater, to drive foot traffic for small business. I think it's really important, kind of to your Greensburg kind of conversation. You have to have the attractions, you have to have the features, a place to put the festivals, the pedestrian zone only. So some of that work is really important and very valuable. I do think that we need to be very strategic in how we're affecting the rest of the city. The traffic flows are there, and then also understanding how are the other streets impacted or not getting the benefit if all of the attention is focused on Quincy Square. There does seem to be sort of a 100% focus on that particular street, 4th Street, but I don't see a lot of attention given to the other parts of the neighborhood, or kind of further down towards 6th Street or other parts of the downtown corridor, which I think are going to be equally important if we want to really bring Bremerton into the place we want to bring it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff.
Perfect. Yeah, I've been tied into this Quincy Square discussion on behalf of the museum, obviously right there on the street. And like Johannes, there's a lot of great benefits to it. It's good to see our streets revitalized. It's good to have a place for community gatherings, not only for festivals and events, but for different businesses to be able to host fundraisers on that street, community interactions, and some great things. But I think when we have big projects like this, we need to work on our communication a bit. We need to make sure that everybody along that street is brought in at the earliest stage possible and to get feedback. And there's definitely been some challenges there on communication with the local businesses. So that's something that I would work on the council, is reach out to those businesses in my district ahead of time at the very earliest stages, make sure that every single person on that street knows what's going on and has a chance to give input. And yeah, we can't neglect our side streets either. I live on Pacific. It's great. We have nice new sidewalks from a couple of years back, but you go 2 blocks off and the sidewalks are crumbling and cracking a bit. So we also, I think, need a dedicated project the size of Quincy Square to address a lot of our side streets and sidewalks and make sure they stay up to date as well.
Thank you. Jim?
Thank you. I support the Quincy Square project just because it falls in line with the area of bringing events downtown, bringing people downtown. My main criticism of the project is it doesn't provide enough covered areas for things when we schedule an event and it's got a downpour. So I think the project could be improved with a few more covered areas. I like how it ties in with the Roxy Theater. I think there's some big synergies that can happen with Roxy, and I think the project will be successful as it moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Excellent. So I agree with most of what's been said already, but I really want to be able to point a finger to the environment right now and talk about that experience that we all had in the heat wave. And so can we bring in the lessons learned from the heat wave, as well as kind of the ongoing environmental challenges that we're facing, and incorporate that into the planning that we're having for Quincy Square? This would mean tree canopies. So can we put even tiny little pockets of green areas so that it's also good for our dog friends and for people who are elderly who want to come to the area but need a little bit of shade? It'll be important to implement that. And in terms of the other businesses around, I think one thing I've heard from from other businesses is more support for getting permits that allow for different kinds of pop-ups and local artist markets in the area, so that we can utilize that as well to expand the benefits that are coming to the Quincy Square area.
Thank you. This next question is going to be for all candidates because it's going to impact both races. We will start, well, actually, I probably will do two questions that's the same way, but we'll start right here. We've talked about parking already multiple times. Bremerton is a Navy town and always has been. Parking downtown has been a problem for local businesses for years because of the overwhelming number of Puget Sound Naval Shipyard workers who park in short-term spaces meant for customers of local businesses. This is despite Kitsap Transit's door-to-door bus service for Puget Sound Naval Shipyard's workers. How can we as a community best solve this problem? I'm going to start right here with Jeff.
All right, fantastic. Yeah, so I've been going door to door to houses and businesses. It's rare that you go to people's houses and they talk about parking and they said, we need more parking enforcement, right? Most people tend to complain, oh, they got me a minute over. But that's what we need. The city has a contract with InPark right now. And I have heard so many people who say, who either work for the shipyard or know somebody who does, and they go, yeah, they only get a ticket about once a month if they park out on the street. So, you know, it's worth the $25, $50 to have convenient parking close to the shipyard. And the first thing that the city council can do is renegotiate that contract and make InPark have heavier and more consistent enforcement. And that will alleviate some of the Navy parking problem and put pressure on the shipyard to provide more parking for their employees, more shuttle bus service, and disincentivize people from crowding our downtown when it needs to go to customers, businesses, and employees. So that's one solid thing that the city council can address right away to immediately alleviate the situation. And then, yeah, keep working on building more parking and getting less cars. It's pretty simple at that point.
Thanks, Jeff. Bill.
Well, as I said earlier, you know, when you look at an aerial photo of Bremerton, you see a whole sea of parking lots, and they're all surface parking lots. It's a tremendous waste of real estate, frankly. So, you know, the solution is to go up, as I indicated earlier. And, you know, you can use technology now to, Austin, Texas has got a great technology company that does smart parking garages. And we still need parking. I don't think it's necessarily an enforcement problem. I agree that the Navy should provide more parking. That's been a problem for a long time. But, you know, you've got to go up, and that's, you know, and frankly, you've got to get more density downtown. You know, if you can get multimodal development where people don't need to get in a car, you know, if we can get more density downtown for people that work in the shipyard and commute to Seattle, they don't need to get in a car. And that density will drive other development. You know, I've talked to grocery store interest. They say, Bill, we'd love to come to downtown Bremerton with a grocery store, but you need more people. So we've got to go up. We've got to have more density downtown for those services.
Thank you, Bill. Greg.
All right, thank you for the question. So when I first got into office, I developed a relationship with Washington, D.C., took a different approach that had never been done before, worked with the Assistant Secretary of the Navy overseeing facilities and our local Navy leadership and leadership back in D.C. We now have the one-of-a-kind, first of its kind partnership with the Navy to work on traffic congestion, circulation, and parking issues downtown specific to their workforce. I mentioned already the adapting technology and adopting technology in the city is now creating more parking availability for us. Lastly, I don't know if everybody knows, I started a street and sidewalk repair program and reconstruction program, the first one since 2007 in the city. It is up and running now. We are improving sidewalks block by block, even as we speak right now. That improves pedestrian mobility. It will help also with people's pleasure and enjoyment and actually getting from point A to point B to help frequent our businesses downtown and throughout all of our neighborhoods.
Thank you, Greg. Jim.
Well, when I was on the council before, I think most committees I ever served on was parking committees. So it is definitely a tough problem. I think there are ways to increase parking in the downtown core. I think there's some areas to improve in the Manette area that we can really add to the parking there without a lot of expense. I think building more parking is expensive. A lot of times you have to be careful just because of the finances. They don't always pencil out. And so you have to be careful with that. But I think it's something we need to support looking at the more parking area. We also have some problems with the state laws that limit the control we can do on handicap parking. I believe the only thing we can limit it to is 4 hours. And so when we have spaces that we want 2-hour parking at, we cannot actually enforce that with someone with a handicap sticker. So people can actually even hop on a ferry and get back and park for free.
Thank you. Melissa?
Okay, here's for those that love data, like myself. Over 80% of commuters in District 3 drive to work alone. That in itself is a big part of potentially why we have very full parking lots and garages. 12% are commuting by public transportation and 1% are commuting by bike. So there's potentially areas where we can work to expand as well to change the ways that people are commuting. How about if we find ways to incentivize people who are choosing to carpool to work rather than those who are driving to work alone? I also heard ideas from local businesses who would like to see a parking permit option for staff of those businesses to be able to park for the entire length of their time while they're at work. And our projection for growth is looking to double our population by 2040. That's a huge amount of growth in such a short amount of time. So we need to be looking beyond kind of what's available now, because we're going to be wanting to look long-term planning at a regional level as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Johannes?
Absolutely agree with everybody. I think everybody has great points. That's one of the incredible things about, I think, people in Bremerton and in this kind of this forum is hearing these ideas and being able to take the best of them and work together to try to solve the problem. So as Jeff mentioned, knocking on doors, talking to people, enforcement is actually a #1 issue I've heard as well as permits for neighborhoods. And that was actually a recommendation in 2017 from the parking study, that there would be residential, especially in high concentration areas around the shipyard or other kind of OC. And those haven't necessarily taken effect to this point. So I think it's worth looking at, based on comments from residents here, kind of sit down and have active engagement, active conversation, understand why weren't those implemented, what are the restrictions, and where can we improve in that process. And public transportation is actually another really big concern. Don't run kind of the necessary hours at certain points, working with Kitsap Transit to make sure we address what those appropriate times are to help make it easier and build the brand for public transit so people want to take the public transit and they feel it's a reliable pathway. So thank you.
Thank you. Hold on to that microphone because I'm going to do the same thing going back again. All candidates. So I'm going to start with you, Johannes. I don't know that I picked up that we've used the P word yet, and I've strategically tried to stay away from it, but we've come to that point to talk about pandemic. The past 18 months has been absolutely devastating to local businesses. What do you believe the city of Bremerton could have done better to support local businesses during the pandemic?
Thank you. Absolutely critical. Over the last 18 months, we have lost a lot of small business that supports the national security or federal government. It has been a #1 issue for the Secretary of the Navy. It's a huge national security concern. It's a huge issue to our local communities. So some of the things that we've seen is that our local EDCs like Kitsap Economic Development Alliance has spent a huge amount of time and effort on distributing CARES Act grants in order to help small business bridge the difficult. The SBDC, Jamie and others have been so involved every day, 12 hours a day, helping companies find strategies to survive. I do think that the city needs to be more engaged on a daily basis. Leaving kind of her location from Hot Java downtown, I think it was a big loss for that corridor, just the meeting space for the community. We should have been there every day talking to her, finding out like, do you need connections to CARES Act? Did you miss out on an opportunity? Is there something that we didn't help provide that forced you to leave that area and leave that gap in our hole in our community? So thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Okay, great. Yeah, so our local businesses, I talked to a lot of them during the pandemic, and I know that there were several who were actually really torn and considering closing up shop, many of which did. I think Johannes is right in terms of distribution of the CARES Act resources could have been executed a lot stronger. And I think that particularly, and I'm going to go back to this equity challenge that we have, because we have so many diverse communities here, businesses of color who have less of that capital and the pockets to fall behind when things get rough, are going to be more impacted by and have been more impacted by issues like the pandemic. So I actually think that we could be looking forward instead of, in addition to looking backward and seeing how we could learn from those challenges and work to build stronger resiliency programs for businesses that need to have that extra support in the back pocket.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, that's a tough one for me. I agree that the grant funding CARES Act pieces were critical, and the more we could have done to help those people, the better off we've been. Part of it wasn't the city, part of it was the way the federal guidelines came down. Really didn't make sense why this business could stay open and this one had to close. There's just been a lot of ridiculous things. So I just look at the fact that, we really just need to reach out to the businesses, and same thing. What do we need to help you survive here? And I think those are things that would have helped. I think the city did some good things that way, actually, with opening up the streets and things, but probably could have done some more of that. But yeah, I don't have a lot of other thought on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
So you're asking me to Monday morning quarterback my own actions.
Yeah.
So, and it was quite a call. We were in the trenches, and these were unprecedented times. We did expand outdoor dining. We did work weekends and nights to put together a relief package for small businesses. Brought in and the small business assistance for coaching. There was quite a bit to it. At the end of the day, quicker we could get our public into a safe zone where our customers and our employees were comfortable going back into their, either to shop or recreate or dine, and our employees were willing to go back to actually work. That was my number one goal, to keep us all safe, to get us where we're here today, where we can actually critique actions like this and have in the luxury of seeing each other in a relatively healthy environment. We have a lot of work to do. As I said, there was unprecedented growth. And incredibly, as it seems unprecedented, we need to help everybody who did not thrive during this time. There's a lot of folks that did not thrive. We need to help them.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thanks. I really don't see the pandemic as being particularly a city issue, although I think it's time to open the Norm Dix building. I think it's time to get city employees back in their workspaces. I was dealing with the city during the pandemic, doing some business and development work, some permitting work. And I can tell you that, it's just, people talk about telecommuting and it being, as productive or as efficient. That has not been my experience. And my experience is that when you can go into the Norm Dix building and talk to a planner or talk to a building official or talk to a business licensing person, you're going to get more responsive assistance. And so, I'm really looking forward to the Norm Dix building being open. I don't know why it's not open now. I don't know why there's a lock on the mayor's door. I think it's the city, the public owns the Norm Dix building. Let's open it up.
Jeff?
Yeah, Brendan, the museum on 4th Street was directly affected by this. Specifically to answer the question, what the city council could have done better was to expedite the distribution of LTAC funding. Those are funds collected by local hotels that get distributed to businesses and nonprofits in the area. And normally those applications would have come out in the summer of 2020, and they just came out a month ago. A meeting was just held, and I know there were some challenges there, but when businesses were hurting most and they could have used that funds, it got delayed an entire year. And so that's one thing that I would have tried to expedite, not delay, if I was on the council. And then, we go back to communication, making sure that all the businesses, both big and small, are together, that the city can't print money, but that they know about the resources on the state and federal level local to them. I'm not sure that everybody was completely included in those discussions. But going forward, let's take the best lessons we learned out of the pandemic about how to integrate both in-person and remote work for the city and for businesses and meetings, and use that to increase communication and collaboration going forward, and take some good parts away of this very challenging time.
Thank you. The next question is for our our council candidates. I believe we're to start with Johannes, correct me if I'm wrong. But we're going to start down there and then come to Jeff next. Your question is around zoning. Mixed use, commercial and residential zoning and development is a current trend in many cities. How do you believe it fits in your district? And I'm going to tag on this one. What do you believe is the max stories for development that council should implement?
Thank you. That's definitely a tough one. So mixed use zoning, I think, is really important. I think you've seen some of the most successful developments. You've got residential mixed with retail on the first floor. It works. It's definitely a successful model for that sort of multimodal district that people are talking about. So it's essential to have that opportunity. There was actually in the comprehensive plan for the city of Bremerton, some of the land use section was specific to that multi-use sort of zoning and specific to working with developers to try to zones or at least work to develop some of those vacant buildings in downtown to try to push some of those new zoning types of buildings into downtown. I think that's going to be really important. You need that retail space on the first floor, of course, assuming we figure out the parking. And you're going to have to create opportunities for studio apartments, for one bedroom apartments, things that are sort of sub, 300K sort of housing in this area in order to create the opportunities and the draw. The demand is there. Now we need the infrastructure to support it.
Thank you, Jeff.
Perfect. Yeah, I've gotten some experience with this serving on the city planning commission, dealing with the zoning updates. Mixed use can be great. It's one way that we can retain a sense of community and not just have, sprawling suburbia or the same old buildings, where we can integrate designs that are going to have businesses on the bottom, apartments on top, interspersed. I think we're working towards that to have a connected downtown with the Harrison Hospital District to get this whole area developed, but in a responsible, community-minded manner. The new development's great, but we also need to look at our existing buildings. You see downtown here, some buildings that have been vacant for, again, 10, 20 years. And I'd like to see the city reach out a little more and offer a carrot first. Is there anything we need to do on the zoning side? Is there a financial incentive? Are you getting big struggles? But if it's just the case that the building's been owned by the same family for decades, we need to find the right stick, something like an unoccupancy tax that will incentivize them to keep those buildings looking fresh, to get businesses in there at a reasonable price, and to revitalize both our existing structures as well as building new ones.
Thank you. Jim?
I support the mixed use development. What I don't support is forced mixed use. And for too long, we required a business to come in and leave the bottom floor vacant for business when we would allow housing above. For example, the hotel on 4th Street in Washington, that was put in a restaurant space when it first went built. And it sat vacant forever until the city finally changed their use to say, you can do something else with it as long as you can convert it to a business use before. And I lobbied for that change for a long time. The use of drive-throughs, we used to prohibit drive-throughs every place. There again, we have handicapped people that need those. We have people with kids, and we have rainstorms. So I do support the mixed use, but also support flexibility in our zoning laws more than just the mixed use concept. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you. One of the other biggest challenges that I've been hearing from our neighbors is to address affordable housing. And this is obviously a multi-complex issue. And homelessness is also an issue that is somewhat tied to affordable housing, but is also its own challenges. So what I think that the mixed use zoning could do for our community, and especially if we're thinking about how to incorporate mixed income spaces, is to address some of those challenges, particularly those for affordable housing. It allows to diversify the amount of the types of housing that we have in our region, as well as support the communities that will be looking for and have employment in the area. So I think that in terms of a max story for development, that's going to need to be in communication with our communities, and that's probably going to vary across different areas of our district as well.
Thank you. Again, this is going to be a rapid fire question. It won't be timed as it's a one-word answer. Thank you to Hanny online for providing this question. How long have you lived in the city of Bremerton?
I've lived in Minot for 5 years.
5 years. Jeff?
Almost 9 years now.
Thank you, Bill.
Off and on 10 years.
Greg?
My whole life except for service, military service.
Jim?
My whole life except for 10 years.
2 years.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question is to our mayoral candidates. What are your, well, actually, this one is for, what is your position on the multifamily tax exemption? Do you think it should be used for marketplace housing? I believe it's time to start with Greg.
So I'm out on record. The multifamily housing tax exemption, for those of you who aren't aware, is we have an 8-year and a 12-year. 12-year is if the developer agrees to provide 20%, at least 20% in an affordable housing rate. 8%, there is no return, or 8 years, there's no return back to the public. You can probably see where I'm leaning towards this. This needs to be modified to if you're going to get 12 or 8 years, there needs to be a return back to the public in the form of affordable housing.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you, Greg, that it needs to be modified. I mean, you know, you ran on affordable housing 4 years ago, and you know, 4 years later, we haven't had any change. I mean, what needs to happen is if you're gonna use the carrot, to paraphrase my council candidate to my right here, you've got to give incentives to people to build affordable housing, and that's the problem with the program. I mean, Spyglass does not have affordable housing. We need to have affordable housing units required if you want to take advantage of this tax opportunity. And I'll work with council to make sure that happens. I mean, I think that's the shortcoming we've had in the city in the last 4 years. We haven't had the council and the city working together on this issue. And I think everybody should want the same thing here. We need to have housing for people that are on our streets.
Thank you. We've reached the point in time where we're going to give you each your 2 minutes closing statement. While we have plenty of additional questions, we will hopefully have some time for you to interact if your question didn't get answered, but we do only have so much time to interact with our candidates at the end. We didn't even get to touch on the East Side Employment Center, as well as several other issues that we just didn't have time for today. But we're going to start with Johannes on that end and work our way back. 2 minutes for your closing statement. Thank you.
All right, thank you again, everybody, for being here and taking your time. Realize it's during the workday, so it makes it difficult. Hopefully this is recorded so that we can share this afterwards as well. So really appreciate everybody being here and being engaged. Myself, born and raised in this area, passionate about solving complex problems. I've worked at many different levels, from federal to local to state, tackling really big challenges, especially specifically around economic development, bringing in all members of the community to be able to have a voice, to listen, to capture those and be able to create a plan for action, and we call biasing towards action. You can only have conversation for so long before you start to lose your participants. So really taking action, really driving communications with our residents, regular meetings, regular opportunities to talk, to have conversation, really focus on economic development, jobs in this district, and supporting our small business who are the fabric of this community. And then smart infrastructure, really being focused on how do we bring in and evaluate new technologies, whether it's looking at models like Chattanooga or San Jose, and bringing those to Bremerton to be able to benefit from the best lessons learned from across the country. And as the only candidate here that's really for the district, that's worked with the Navy extensively over my career, both as a veteran and civilian, we really have to work closely with our federal partners as well to help make those relationships and to create those opportunities to help Bremerton, I think, advance to the next stage, to create these opportunities and to help empower our residents and citizens to scale the amazing work they've done already, from Evergreen Park to Minette Park to this downtown corridor, helping to connect them to the resources and tools and pathways to make our city great. Thank you.
Thank you, Johannes. Melissa?
Thank you. Yeah, I've been honored to grow up around Puget Sound and have family who live in Bremerton all of my life. And this has been one of probably 4 areas that I've had the pleasure of constantly visiting throughout my life. I believe that no matter where you come from or how much or how little you and your family have worked to find success in your life, everyone deserves an opportunity to belong within their community and have your voice heard and to be able to pursue equitable prosperity. I have a strong record in building bridges, coalition building, strengthening relationships that are critical to success and effective movement that will have meaningful implications for communities that depend on those, and for providing spaces for people to share what their greatest challenges and opportunities are. Thanks again to the Bremerton Chamber of Commerce for providing this space for candidates, constituents, and stakeholders, and also to Johannes, Jim, and Jeff for being really kind and strong opponents in this race. I'm honored to call Bremerton my home and to be able to have this opportunity to run for city council. When I was in college, I had a college professor tell me that as a Native woman, I would never be able to be elected for any local office. And I'm very proud to be here as a gay Indigenous woman running as the only woman in this race for this position. And I've also felt really supported by our local community, including the other opponents in this race. And so I feel really honored to have this opportunity to continue to run. And I look forward to having more opportunities to chat with people and learn what their needs are and how I can support addressing those needs within the city. Thanks.
Thanks, Melissa. Jim?
Thank you. So when I was on the council previously, one of the things the council did was reduce the number of districts from 9 to 7. And I knew it was going to backfire on me and have 6 other people running against me. You know, actually, I was really excited that we have so many people wanting to participate in the government, and we've got good candidates here. So whoever gets elected, I feel confident that we'll have a good council representing District 3. I have a lot of experience since I've done the job. I have a business degree, so I understand financing. I know the city budget. I know how to get things done. One of the things I'm proudest of when I was on the council was the B&O tax ordinance that is still in place today that lists the exemption for B&O tax, $20,000 a year. This year it's a $240,000 exemption for B&O tax. And for those that don't understand, the B&O tax is a lousy tax. It taxes businesses' income whether they make money or not. So you lose money, you still got to pay B&O tax to the city of Bremerton. Port Orchard doesn't have a B&O tax. Paulsville doesn't have a B&O tax. The county doesn't have a B&O tax. So it really puts us at a big competitive disadvantage. And so when we have the income, this ordinance will keep working as long as it doesn't get altered by the council. If I'm on the council, that's a top priority for me to keep that thing moving. And if we've got the money to actually keep raising that ceiling, because nothing better to support business than take away, you know, it's worse for business than to take away their hard-earned money or money they didn't even make. So I'm really excited that that thing has worked so well for small businesses. Still a big advocate for environmental improvements for the city. I don't think we do nearly enough. Electrical generation, wastewater pollution prevention, just lots of things we can do better. I've got experience to help them do that too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Greg?
All right, so B&O tax, I kept it going, the exemption increase going through the pandemic when we were in the throes of uncertainty, and I felt it was important for our recovery. The same with Quincy Square. I just want to share with you, affordable housing is a core of my office. And we have a rental assistance program, down payment assistance, weatherization program, some of the most progressive zoning in the state as far as allowing up to 2 ADUs per property. Only 4 other jurisdictions in the state do that. Cluster lot size averaging, which is a cottage type of zoning. upzoning in areas. I want to share with you, we are seeing success and we are having unprecedented growth in creating housing. Creating affordable housing often means supply exceeding demand. We are working at it. I want to share with you the Norm Dix Government Center and a philosophy of mine. During the pandemic, women in the workforce were overwhelmingly impacted by the shutdowns. Daycare, affordability, and accessibility was devastating to a part of our economy. And it is vital to our recovery that we do things to make sure this doesn't happen again. We have become very proficient with technology at City Hall. We will increase our efficiency. We will increase our effectiveness and outcomes. We will improve our customer service. We will provide an environment that allows for telecommuting, which assists with daycare. This is going to be an environment, it's a model for small businesses to not to replicate, but to start to get ready to take advantage and fill gaps and needs in our community, because this is a new change coming. Telecommuting is coming. So I will always give it to you straight as your mayor. There will be no empty promises meant from me. I will back it up. I will be transparent. When I do something, I'll give you a progress report as I have done. Please visit my website and you'll see everything that you need to see. And I'm always available to answer questions. And I look forward to continuing to work for you.
Thank you, Greg. Bill.
Well, I also would like to thank the chamber and the other candidates today. You know, there's a saying that you don't learn much when you're talking, you learn when you're listening. And I heard a lot of really good comments today and I appreciate them and I will take them to heart. You know, when I was city attorney back in the 80s, we got a lot of things accomplished. You know, we annexed Puget Sound Naval Shipyard into the city, which has been a legacy of revenue for the city that'll last forever. You know, we took the Gold Mountain Golf Course back from private developers and brought it under city ownership, which has provided long-term funding for our parks. We reformed the police department that was kind of operating in a 1950s style mode when I came to work there. We've accomplished a lot of things. I mean, I have a record of getting things done. And, you know, the problem that I see in the city now is I just don't see a lot of progress. I see what I call analysis paralysis. You know, we spend $750,000 on the traffic study that tells us we don't have enough parking. You know we don't have enough parking. Let's figure out a solution. You know, the stars are aligned right now. We've got people coming here because housing is so expensive on the other side of the water. We've got very low interest rates right now. You know, this is an opportunity, and as someone pointed out, the population in Bremerton is going to double in the next 20 years. We've got to be ready for that. And we don't get ready for it by studying it. We get ready for it by building it. And that's why I'm running for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Jeff.
All right, well, thanks again to the chamber for hosting this, for all of you attending, both in person, online. Kudos to all my colleagues here for I think a productive and fantastic discussion. And this is exactly what we need more of. My core beliefs is that government works best when all voices are heard. And I've just been to a lot of city council meetings where there's some big votes and decisions that affect 40,000 people in the city. And we get input from maybe one or two people, and that has to change. As a candidate here, I've been going door to door to both to community events, businesses, and individual residences. I've now gotten out to 20% of registered voting households. And I've been asking again, simply, what can the city do better for you? What are your top issues and concerns? And so if you go to my website, coughlinforcouncil.com, there's a section that says your issues, where I've been gathering the data as to what the top issues actually are. And I'd like to continue getting that data, so please weigh in. And that's what I'll do as a council person, is to reach out. Yeah, I've got some strong views on how we can best tackle affordable housing and the homelessness crisis, make this a growing city, but an inclusive one that works for everybody. But primarily, my main campaign issue is communication. I want to go out there, listen to everybody, get everybody's input, make them feel involved, and we'll make the best decisions when we get that weight in. One of my best experiences, in addition to serving with local business and on the planning commission, just being a scientist. I know how to change my mind, how to change opinions when I get new data, and how to get good data. And so that's what I'll do as a council person. I'll help bridge that conversation. So I ask you to please go ahead and vote Coughlin for council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you to all of our candidates. This is what keeps us having hope here in our community, and when we can have a great exchange of ideas like we did here today. I would like to remind everybody, you will find the video posted on the chamber website. and our social media pages. So be on the lookout for that on Facebook, Instagram, wherever else you may live on social media. We do have some time here that if you would like to interact with our candidates, you can. But I would like to take a moment to thank a couple of people. First and foremost, there are two people out in the hall that are making all this happen for you people online, joining us virtually, as well as helped set up a lot of the things here. Jeff, Martin, and Ashley are back there. They are behind the scenes getting us taken care of. And then their fearless leader, of course, who put this all together, Denise Fry, our president and CEO of the Chamber. On behalf of all of the board of directors, it's my pleasure to thank you all for coming and to thank our candidates and wish them good luck. We appreciate your time today, and we'll see you at our next forum. Thank you.
Have a good day.